Show. I'm your host, Brooke Black. This is a community where we are building inclusiveness, diversity, and belonging through social justice, culture, and music. I'm so excited. We've been focused a lot on music. Today we're gonna focus on social justice. Say that 10 times fast. I'm here with Marlene Gonzales. Marlene is an immigration attorney in the state of Utah, but she travels all around the world doing immigration work, and I am really excited to talk with her about that. Marlene, what firm do you work with?
I work with Pearson Butler, and I'm the immigration attorney there.
Oh, beautiful. And how long have you been with them?
I've been with them for 3 years, but I've been practicing immigration law for 20 years.
Oh my gosh,
over 20 years.
So you've seen a lot of changes over the years.
Yes.
With changes, what are the most recent changes that have hit American culture as far as immigration goes?
Well, I think as far as immigration goes, it's the administration. It depends on what the administration directs as far as immigration, because the administrative branch is the one that's responsible for immigration, but it's the Congress that makes immigration laws. So immigration, as you mentioned, is federal law. It's the same across the United States. U.S. immigration law is federal law. So somebody could be in California or Utah, New York, it's all the same laws. But the changes have to do with the administration. Okay. So during the Trump administration, things were a lot stricter. As you know, we had the travel ban.
Right.
Which affected a lot of people. And now that's changed a bit under the Biden administration. Things are a little bit not as restrictive under the current administration.
What makes it restrictive? Is it loopholes they have to go through? Is it laws that they have to abide to? What is it exactly that makes it
policies.
restrictive?
It's policies.
Okay.
Policies on how they treat people in deportation, policies on how they are going to treat asylum applicants, whereas the laws are created by Congress. Only Congress has the for the most part, Congress has the authority to make immigration laws, but we have such things as administrative actions, such as DACA.
DACA. Explain
Deferred
DACA.
action, DACA is deferred action for childhood arrivals. It's for children who were brought here under the age of 16 at the time that this was under President Obama.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
these
it's been around for a while.
Yeah, so this is a policy. This is an administrative action. Laws, immigration laws are made by Congress, but the presidents can take administrative actions.
They can take like a veto or...
Not even veto, but just say, but that's a separate, that's in making laws. They can veto. Yeah, so I know it's confusing, but yeah, so different presidents can actually impact immigration policies.
Okay.
So going back to DACA, DACA is very important because we have a lot of young people who are DACA recipients. Okay.
And that's 16 and under?
They entered the United States. To be a DACA recipient, you must have entered the United States under the age of 16.
Is there a certain time frame that they would have had to have entered?
As of when DACA was announced by President Obama, June 15th, 2012.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So at that time, people who entered the United States under the age of 16, and they'd been here for the past 5 years, so meaning they would have entered in 2007, June 15, 2007.
Okay.
So it affects a lot of people who have been here a long time. So these are children. So the rationale is that these are kids, like
they're
their
children.
parents brought them.
They're
what are you
worried
gonna
about
do?
their video game and their bubble gum.
They grew up here. Well, they grew up here.
Right.
Okay. Immigrant kids who grew up here think they think like American citizens.
Right.
They grew up here.
Yeah.
They're educated here, and some of them don't even know
Immigrants.
their language.
Their language.
Their family's language. Some
The
of them
native
don't even
language?
speak their native language.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Some of them do, some of them don't. But for the most part, they're Americanized. So the problem is, what are you going to do about them?
Right.
Okay, so this is one, it's a Band-Aid fix.
Right.
The actual intent by Congress back in 2000, they wanted to make a way for these kids. We say kids because they entered as
Right.
kids, but they're adult. They're in their 30s now. A way for them to get legal status, to get resident status, and that's being worked on right now by Congress.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
Congress has taken a long time. Because it's so controversial.
Very.
And you can understand it's controversial. There are different points to this. On the one hand, you want to say, well, you don't want to reward. This is the other side. The other side
Right.
for me. You don't want to reward people who cross the border.
Right.
You know.
Who broke the law. Per
Right.
se.
But then
Okay.
again, what are you going to do about these children who are
Right.
practically Americans?
They're innocent. I mean, they
They
didn't
didn't
come here
have
on their
anything
own.
to do with
Right.
So anyway, DACA, it's very hot. It's still a hot topic right now because they're still trying to push for legal residency for DACA recipients.
Okay. The reason that I wanted to invite you to talk about this conversation is for a couple reasons. Under the Trump administration, we had a huge immigration crisis at our borders, and there are detention camps, and there's just a lot that's not being talked about. When it comes to immigration law, how do we defend those people, or how do we help them? How do they get help? Do they need to reach out? Do we reach out to them? How can we assist those people?
Well, for the most part, that has been a long-term problem throughout the different presidencies.
Right.
It became very much more apparent under President Trump because of his policies of building the wall, but it's for the most part the laws have been the same.
Okay.
The policies again are different in the way we were treating them, and now well, you can't just come in, you have to anyway, a lot of the details in that is based on the policies.
Okay. Now, a lot of people feel that they have no power. What gives them power in this type of situation?
Okay, so what people can do is talk to their congressmen and women, talk to their senators, and express their opinions on what should be done, because it's the congressmen and women, the senators and Congress, the House of Senate and the House of Congress are the ones who make these rules, and the president can veto. But for the most part, it's up to them. And this has been the biggest problem over the years because
Right.
immigration is very controversial. They can't come up with anything, so there's a
Right.
gridlock.
So right now, when I hear Congress and Senate, it sounds very intimidating. How hard are these people to get in touch with?
Okay, it's pretty easy. They have their phone numbers. You look up, for example, here in Utah, we have two senators, okay, Senator Mitt Romney and Mike Lee. They have their offices. You just Google, you find their offices, you can email. They have phone numbers that are dedicated to people just leaving their opinions
Inbound
or comments.
calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yes, it's pretty easy. And sometimes when there are initiatives that we want to push, you can get on the group, for example, whatever political action group, and you can send out emails, and they have the email language already, the
Okay.
message, and you just send it from your email, so that you're saying the same, you're giving the same message, you're expressing your opinions to the senators and our congressmen.
Is that like a petition? Because I know I've signed some petitions in the past with.
They could be petitions, or they could just be straight out my opinion on this particular bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there a specific bill in Utah, or is that so? Our Congress obviously represents Utah, which goes to a national level. Is there a bill in Utah that they can email or call in about right now?
Yeah, so because when it comes to immigration, because it's federal law,
Right.
those bills are with the US Congress.
Okay.
Yeah, so U.S. Senate and Congress, but they're the ones who represent our little state. We only have two. Well, everybody has two. All the states have two senators.
Right.
I think we have four districts.
Okay.
So anyway,
So the fact that you've been doing this for 20 years, you've seen a lot of cases come and go. Do you have any that does statute of limitations apply to these clients, or how
yeah,
does that
there are
work?
some rules that are retroactive. Some rules that, yeah, at a certain point, this no longer applies. One good example is this old rule called 245I. It's like the Immigration Nationality Act, Section 245I. And that allowed, this was by President Clinton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
You're going back to the 90s.
Yeah, it's like during that time, under 245I, people who have petitions by employers
Okay.
or their spouses, even if they cross the border, even if they cross the border without a visa, they can actually apply for a green card here without having to go back to their home country for the interview.
Okay.
They just have to wait a while for the visas to become available, but that's something that no longer, that stopped on April 30th, 2001.
Okay.
So these dates we have to keep in mind, in immigration.
So let's go back to the immigration process. So let's say, I'll use myself for instance. Let's say I want to marry someone or I want to bring an employee over here. Is the process pretty much the same, or does it differentiate between marriage, licensure, not licensure, but visa, like a work visa, a student visa, those type of things? How do those vary?
And that's a very good question. So there are the two major pathways for immigration are family-based.
Okay.
That's marriage,
Children, family.
brothers and sisters,
Right.
okay, and employment-based. So this would be employers petitioning for employees abroad.
Now,
Okay.
do you cover both sides of the fence on that?
Yeah,
Family
yeah,
and, okay.
yeah, we do. So, yeah, so basically it's a petition by, let's take a person, right, a family base. So, let's take let's take a student, a foreign student, right?
Okay.
Going to college here.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just say, for example, this student is from Spain, my favorite country.
I love it.
The student from Spain meets a U.S. citizen,
Okay.
and they fall in love. And she's here on a non-immigrant visa. Student visa is non-immigrant. It's not intended for you to be able to stay in the United States. It's only for the duration of your student status.
Oh, okay. So
It
if
expires, yeah,
wait, let me pause you. Is that applied to 4-year bachelor, master's?
depending on the degree that you're
Okay.
trying to obtain.
Are there limitations on what schools they can go to?
No.
Okay,
no,
good.
No. Yeah, so that's something that's pretty big, because we do, the U.S. is good for education.
Education, yeah.
We have good educational institutions. And people, with a degree, of course,
Yeah.
from the United States, if you go to MIT or Harvard, that's very much wanted. Engineering degrees, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very popular visa that we have. But let's say the Spanish engineering student falls in love with a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
so
could happen.
Yes,
It does happen.
It does happen. The U.S. citizen petitions for once they get married, then he can petition for her.
Okay.
And this is the green card process, what many
Okay.
people know as the green card, but it's really an application for permanent resident status in the United States.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, can they have the student visa as long as they're still in school?
They can have the student visa, but once they get married, they can
It's
start the
void.
process
Oh, okay.
to adjust status because the green card replaces the student
Right, right.
visa.
Now, what are the limitations on a student visa? Or do they have to be full time? Can they be part time? Can they take
Yeah,
summers
students
off?
have to be full time.
Full time. Now, do
Yeah.
they have to take summer semester or is it just
They can
traditional?
take summer off, they can attend summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, once they start the marriage process, how long do they have? What is that process like?
Okay, so this really depends on the timing too, because that can change. So, a few years ago, maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago, it used to be that that process would take 5 to 6 months. Now that could be a year to a year and a half.
Oh, wow. What if they
Before,
graduate?
oh no, they don't need to worry about the student visa anymore as long as they
Okay.
started the green card
Okay.
application. So they're fine even if they already graduated and their
Okay.
student visa already expired as long as they've started the green card process.
Okay.
But the difficulty is it's taking a long time.
Yeah.
And they're
Is that
supposed to.
COVID related or?
Yeah, a lot COVID related and the backlog.
Okay.
So it's a lot of different things, but mainly COVID. COVID held up for a year interviews
boy.
at the consulates abroad. So they reopened, the U.S. consulates have reopened, and people are able to have their interviews.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really I think the hardest part is the wait.
Okay.
And it's very frustrating because while they're waiting, they can't even work legally. So,
Oh, no.
yeah, so the student maybe already graduated.
Right.
They started the process, but she can't legally work for a year. Well, it's taking about a year.
Yeah.
Before it used to take, it was
5
supposed to
to
be
6
90
months.
days.
Okay.
90 days. Yeah, 90 days
Do you
to
think,
get their work permit.
do you
But
think
now
it will
it's
go
over a
back
year.
to that?
Oh.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers
Send it out
crossed.
to the
It just seems
universe.
like there's more and more and more cases, and
Yeah.
yeah, fingers crossed. I hope things go back to that time.
So, with them not working, are there any programs to help them with housing, with food, with shelter, anything like that?
Nope.
Because they're not citizens.
U.S. citizen is responsible for.
Okay. Let's change lanes just a little bit, unless there's something you want to add to that topic.
No, that's
So, there's been a huge turn of events, if that's how we want to put it, in Afghanistan. And I know that you mentioned something about consulate and people seeking asylum and those type of things. So let's use Afghanistan for instance. People who are seeking asylum, how does that play into immigration law? Is that part of immigration law? Because you said there's two lanes.
Oh yeah,
work
that's
and
immigration.
family.
Asylum is immigration law.
Okay.
To get asylum, right now they can be designated as refugees because of the
Okay.
situation. So, asylees and refugees, the one thing that is the same, the basis for asylum status or refugee status is a well-founded fear of persecution in your home
Okay.
country,
Yeah.
past or future, based on race, religion, national origin, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. So people have to establish that. So
Right.
people from Venezuela, people coming in from Central America, crossing the border, that's what they have to establish
Okay.
to get asylum status. And so with Afghanistan, there's a crisis, it's a refugee.
Right.
The United Nations can designate them as refugees. Also, they can apply for asylum if they, because they worked with as Afghanistan has a special visa, it's called a special immigrant visa for people who worked with Americans
Oh,
during
okay.
the time that the Americans were there because they helped out a lot.
20 years or
yeah,
so.
20 years. They
Okay.
served as medical interpreters. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you see an influx or a waiting list for these refugees to get asylum?
Yeah, right now, so they are being placed in different countries. Like Germany takes asylees, the United States. There's a need, actually, there's a need for people to house refugees. There's a lot of need for the Afghan for help with the Afghan refugees. And all you have to do is look up the government website, the State Department, Travel.state.gov, USCIS.gov, that's immigration, U.S. Immigration and Citizenship Services, and they have all sorts of information about how you can help, whatever they need, and the resources available to the Afghan
Okay.
people.
Now, is that with Venezuela as well because of their crisis that they're having?
With Venezuela, it's not the same as far as immediate need,
Right.
because they're not being evacuated. You know,
Right.
like we had to evacuate the Americans out of Afghanistan, and some people, Afghans who helped Americans. But Venezuela has they have different avenues available.
Okay.
Temporary protected status is something that the administration or the government provides to certain countries. For example, Haiti recently got temporary protected status, meaning as long as a person had entered the United States on a certain date that the president announced,
I see.
they can stay, they can get a work permit, they are temporarily protected until things calm down in their
Okay.
home countries. So we have given temporary protected status to Haitians. Many people know that their president was assassinated. Actually, we gave temporary protected status before the president was assassinated, and we have given temporary protected status to Venezuelans, but they have to have entered at the time or before the announcement was made. So
see.
people who are coming in after that, they have to apply for asylum.
Okay. Now, let's go back to citizens getting involved in helping refugees. Let's say I wanted to open my home and get involved in that way. Is there anything, if so, I'm going to be really transparent. What if I'm a criminal? Can I house these people?
Oh, I'm not sure how they.
Okay, so I'd have
I'm
to
not
go
sure.
to that
Yeah,
website.
but you do. Yeah, just go. I mean, if you just Google Afghanistan, help Afghanistan refugees, there's a lot of information about what you can do and what they need.
So between emailing and calling your senators and representatives and getting involved as far as like opening our doors and saying, "Come on, I will house you." What else can we do as citizens? Do you think conversation is important? Awareness?
Oh, yes. Awareness is very important. I sat at a table over the summer at a, friend's picnic, okay, outdoors. And it was very interesting because we had myself, the immigration attorney, somebody who had hardly any knowledge about immigrants
Okay.
other than what they hear on the media.
Right, which is they're stealing our jobs. They're not
Right.
paying
And somebody
taxes.
who was from here of Latin descent who feels the same way, like they're stealing our jobs. And, it's like all they understand is what they hear from the media, and you really have to do a little bit more research than what you hear, because you hear a lot of
Absolutely.
sound bites. They're stealing our jobs. Right. Our kids are not applying for the housekeeping jobs. Okay.
They're not.
Our U.S. citizen children and are not applying for U.S. citizen jobs, cooks, and but we have a shortage.
We do.
We know now
Nobody wants to work.
from COVID who are our essential workers.
Yes.
Yes, who's doing all those things?
Right.
Agriculture, who's doing all those things? Do we care? Do we care about their status? No, we don't care about their status. We just care that we get cheap vegetables.
Groceries and
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah. But that's something also, the agricultural workers, they come to work, but it's hard for them to just get legal status just like that.
Right.
So these are very good questions, Brooke. I'm glad you, because
I'm very curious.
Yeah, no, but you're coming from the, common person's point of view,
Right.
who, if you had no knowledge of immigration law, but this is exactly what we as immigration lawyers want to get across the general population is please don't just listen to the sound bites
Right.
when it comes to immigration. Do a little bit more research and find out who the immigrants really are, how
Right.
they help the country, and how they are very much needed. And I think it's just a matter of, if people traveled more often, if the United States citizens traveled more often, they would understand where people are coming from.
Right.
And and they talk to the people who are working here, who are immigrants, they would have a better understanding of what it is they seek to work. They seek opportunities that they don't have in their home countries.
Right. We definitely are blessed to have the freedoms, if that's what you want to call it,
Yes,
that we have here.
opportunities.
Opportunities is a good word. I want to go back into a little bit. Let's say I am an illegal immigrant and I'm here and I was brought here by my parents, and let's say I get into some trouble. Is it too late for me if I'm in trouble, or can I get help, or am I just being deported? What does that look like?
Okay. That's a very good question. You really ask good questions. I appreciate that. So people who are undocumented are very afraid of getting in trouble.
Right.
Sometimes they get in trouble and they don't seek the help of an attorney
Right.
because they think, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be deported. Deportation is a process. It's not like the cops catch you and, take you to the border within the same day. You have the right to appear in court and be represented. And so when somebody commits a crime, it's very important to talk to a criminal defense lawyer first.
Okay.
Okay, and a criminal defense lawyer can say, okay, like this is a least possible sentence you can get given your
Okay.
background, and that really helps. Okay, when it comes to their immigration status, because sometimes people just plead guilty
Right.
and they don't try to fight their case because they think I'm undocumented, I have no rights. So that's not true. Undocumented people, like all people who are on this land, have rights.
Right. Because they're in America.
They're
And
in
that's in our
America.
Constitution.
You're on
It's in our Bill
United
of
States
Rights.
soil. The Constitution
Right.
applies to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, it's very important that they contact it. Yes, please
Yeah.
contact a criminal defense lawyer, and the criminal defense lawyer can also help you figure out, like, okay, you're an immigrant or you're undocumented. You should talk to an immigration lawyer as well and see if there's anything you can do. But that's something that people should avoid. Undocumented people should avoid getting into trouble.
Right. Just reach out to Marlene or any immigration attorney prior to any,
Getting into any plea
mischief.
deals or admitting to any crimes.
So, with that being said, what about funding? Because I know a lot of the times when it comes to even just me as a citizen, if I get in trouble, money's an option, or sometimes it's not an option. Are there any programs, or is there any pro bono attorneys? Is it something national? Is it local? Like, how can those people get help as well?
Okay, let's talk about criminal defense and then immigration. So,
Okay.
in criminal law, if somebody is found indigent or cannot afford an attorney, the court can appoint. They have a right to be appointed an attorney in criminal court.
Like a public defender?
A public defender
Okay.
is appointed. So that too, sometimes people think, I can't afford an attorney. I'm just going to plead guilty
Right.
just to make it quick. But that's a bad idea, because you could get the maximum penalty, which you can possibly avoid given
Right.
the facts of your case.
Especially if you're innocent.
Especially if you're innocent. Exactly. Some people just, okay, I don't want to fight it.
Right.
So, yeah, we do have a right to assistance of counsel.
Okay. And then on the immigration
On
side?
the immigration side, there are some nonprofit organizations that provide free legal help. But people have to qualify. And
Right.
you can show that you can't afford it, then they will take your case. And we have a few here. We have Holy Cross Ministries is a big one. Catholic Community Services is another one. And International Rescue Committee.
Okay.
Those are some of our three major immigration nonprofits.
Now that's just Utah. You actually work on a global, because
That's correct. That's just Utah. So every state has their own different
Okay.
programs to help people.
now let's talk work visas, because with I don't know 80,000 jobs just in Utah, I'm sure that there's people out there that want the employees that are willing to work that are, maybe not US citizens, maybe they are getting their green card, whatever. What is that process for the employer to seek an employee getting a work visa?
Okay, so we do know that we have a shortage of workers. We have a shortage of essential workers, truck drivers, cooks, construction. A lot of people know that especially the employers,
Yeah.
because they're the ones who can't find
Right.
find enough workers to support the demand of their businesses. And so there is a way for employers to petition for workers, for foreign workers.
Okay.
It's a process, but that's something that the employers should look into
Okay.
to see how they can apply for petition for their workers. So right now, I'm doing like construction workers, truck drivers, and we have to show that there are no Americans able, willing, available, and qualified to do the job. And believe it or not, we are showing that. We
Is
have
it a certain amount of time that the job has to be posted before?
Yeah, the
Okay.
job is posted for 30 days with the state.
Or retention, anything like that? Does retention matter?
No.
Okay.
It's just the job posting,
Okay,
right?
okay.
And then 30 days with the state, if anybody applies. So what's happening is either nobody's applying or Americans qualified are applying, but they want more
More money.
than the prevailing wage. So
Okay.
it's the government that determines the prevailing wage, and we advertise for the position providing the prevailing wage.
Okay.
And really, in my experience, there are no Americans available applying for the job.
Right.
There's a shortage. There really is a shortage.
Yeah. We won't get too much into those politics. Gosh, I think we've touched on just about everything. My only last question, going for overall misconceptions when it comes to immigrants and when it comes to seeking asylum and getting a green card or a visa, what do you think, aside from the media, is the biggest impact on false information?
Aside from the media,
Yeah.
I think it's our own cultural bias. Like I said, somebody who has traveled to
Right.
different countries might be a little bit more open-minded than somebody who just because if you're in your close culture,
In your bubble.
in your bubble, yes. When you're in your bubble and you're talking to the same people and you're not meeting somebody from a different perspective, a different country, a different way of life, then you believe what each other is saying in your bubble. And, the media is one that, people say, they're criminals, they're taking
Right.
away our
Propaganda.
jobs. Yeah, it's a lot of the propaganda. But if you really knew, just look at the restaurants. Who's cooking your food? Who's cleaning your hotel room? So
Who's folding the laundry?
it's
Who's mopping
important.
the floor? Yeah. I think there's a sense of entitlement in America that we maybe feel above being a janitor. No, it's not ingrained in our psyche to say, I'm going to be a janitor when I grow up. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a movie star. And so I think that that's where we get this false perception of what an actual American worker is and where the jobs are supposedly being stolen from. I'm really excited that we had this conversation. I think it's
Thanks for
important.
having me.
Yes, I think it's important we continue the discussion and pull back the curtains and really talk about the true reason that we're having a border crisis and, we're having an influx of refugees and, immigrant status. And honestly, please, please, please reach out to your senators, email them, get in communication with them. Whether you're for it or whether you're against it, just get involved. I think that's the biggest thing, because if you're just sitting back complaining, then you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. Whatever that solution looks like, I don't know. But for me, I definitely want to continue the conversation. So walk on over to brookeblack@morningcupofculture.com. Make sure you send me your suggestions for the show, your press kits for music and entertainment. Shout out to my sponsors, Respect the Underground, Respect the Underground Worldwide Radio. Is there anything you want to add?
I think you covered a lot of things in your questions and the general things that we would like to let people know about. So thank you very much.
If you want to continue to the discussion, like I said, reach out on Instagram, Brooke Black, Morning Cup of Culture. It's been a blessing to be here with you, Marlene. I sure appreciate your time and all the work that you do in our community. I appreciate you for what you do for everyone. So
I appreciate you too. Thank you for your work.
Yeah. MorningCupOfCulture.com. Make sure you guys tap in, like, and subscribe. Peace.